Hello and welcome to the overview of the new 7.5 software version of PC-3000. As always, with the new version, we would like to shortly introduce it to you and talk about some of the most interesting and important features. However, before I start talking about it, let me remind you about the upcoming ACE Lab Tech Week. It will be held in Malaga, Spain, from the 2nd of October till the 5th of October. This is the biggest data recovery and forensic event where top data recovery and digital forensics professionals meet. This year will be a special edition one, because we are celebrating 30-year anniversary of the PC-3000 technology. There will be lots of gifts and surprises, and you can even win PC-3000 Portable Pro. So hurry up, and we are looking forward to see you in Malaga. So, let's begin our talking about the hard disk drive part of our software. And the first thing that I want to show you is the Western Digital utility and the new things that we added to it. So let's pay attention to my screen. And the first thing that I would like to mention is that our developers added support for Venice R+2 Lite family of the device. Now it is possible to work with it, it is possible to unlock such drives, it is possible to get access to their service area, fix it if needed, and proceed working with its user area in data extractor. What else has been added in 7.5 software version? Now it is possible to initialize custom modules in RAM of your drive. Previously, you could work with the dir module, module 01 only, but in this version and in future, it is possible to choose any module from the surface and upload it to the RAM to initialize the drive. It could be very helpful in cases when your drives are not that stable, when heads are not that stable, and when you need to initialize the drive even in these situations. What about ROM? In ROM, we have additional options as well. Previously, it was possible to block the regions, module 02 access, module 30 access. For different cases, it was pretty useful, of course. But now we added even more diversity. So now you can block and allow access to custom modules. Idea is pretty much the same, to better initialize the drive, to initialize the drives quicker in case of different problems with them. We are hoping that you will find these solutions useful and would proceed working with them. What about the Seagate utility? Let's talk about it. For Seagate drives, we added even more families to the supported list, like Mobula, Cimarron, Evans, Cimarron BP, and Evans BP. For Evans BP family, you can unlock the drive and you can get access to the service area objects and pretty much solve any case based on these families. On the families that I mentioned before, our developers are adding more and more possibilities and adding more and more features to them. One of the most important addings to the Seagate software, to the Seagate utility, is the possibility to work with the cases in which you have not one ROM, but you have situations when your ROM chips are working in a stripe. We found out that more and more cases like this can appear on the market, and therefore we added possibility to read them and apply solutions that we already know, like unlocking the ROM, and you now are able to work even with such drives. And of course, I need to mention that overall stability, overall speed of work of our software has been improved, both for Western Digital utilities, for Seagate utilities, and so on and on. And now let's see the drive from Western Digital with some issues on that. We will solve this case and see the even further improvements of the data extractor and even more possibilities how to work with the second level translator on modern Western Digital SMR drives. Now it's time to check the case that I was talking about before. So this is the Western Digital 2 terabyte charger drive. Obviously, this is the SMR drive, and the problem here is the deleted data, plus this drive is encrypted. So now let's see how you need to work with such cases. First of all, I am connecting it. I will start sharing my screen in a second with you. Perfect. So first of all, as always, power it on, auto-detect the utility, auto-detect the family, and start working with the case. Now, first of all, how to understand if this drive is actually encrypted or not, because in different countries and different markets, even SMR drives can be encrypted or not. First of all, you can pay attention to this part of the log right here. Or there is another way. If you go to edit HDID and go to security subsystem, here is a little tip for you to understand if it is encrypted or not. So, what is the first thing that we need to do? Obviously, a backup is needed. Let's start it. Let's start the backup. Let's create a profile folder for it. And let's do a backup of this drive. In the latest software version, you will be asked if you want to save partial module 190 or the whole module. For this case, we will choose whole module saving, and let's wait for the backup to be finished. Great, it has been done. Now, first thing first is to click this button right here. Prepare the drive to get user area PBA access. When your drive is ready, you need to create a new task. Let's name it deleted files plus encryption. And if you was looking and checking the previous videos from us, or you was working with previous software version, you already know that in such cases you need to use PC-3000 utility, not the SATA port that your drive is connected to. Don't forget to make data copy. Decide where you want to save your task. And here in this window, it's better to choose the first option for such cases. Task has been opened, so now we need to go to the Explorer. We need to start restoring the second level translator. Choose your module 190 file from the backup. And wait for the end of the current process. If you were checking our previous video about the version 7.4, you may see that the processes, the approach is very similar. And you would be right. Our developers just improved the processes, made them faster, made them more precise, and even greater for data recovery purposes for formatted and for cases with deleted data. Let's wait a little till the end of the process and let's see what we get here. So after restoring the second level translator, we can see two results. Our first one, the spades units. If we open the map, we will see the capacity of this map, the size of this map. And obviously, if we will try to open it, we will not see the file structure available. If you are looking for the file structure, you should always pick the virtual drive. So let's click on it. Let's click Edit, Versions, first of all, and let's see if we manage to put our master boot and boot into the correct position automatically, or we need to do it manually. In previous version, these processes may be needed to be done manually, but here, as we can see, we already looking at more or less good file structure. We can see that the file system here is NTFS, and obviously we are not seeing the full file structure yet, but we already can find the metadata and the MFT records is rather big. The amount of them is very big. So what is the next step that we need to do? The next step is to right-click the file structure and find the option for selection versions for metadata. So what is the idea of this process? In this window, we need to select the first one. So right now we are asking the data extractor to find the correct versions and to decide which of them are actually updated. So previously there could be cases in which you needed to do it manually. You may waste a lot more time on such cases. You needed to be very precise. Developers managed to automate this process and even improve the speed of it. Of course, depending on the case, the time that you need to spend on it will be different. But here, let's hope for the fast calculation and searching for the correct versions of our metadata. It's almost ready. We almost finished the current process. So let's wait till the very end And let's begin analysis. Let's see what we can do here in this case, how we can proceed here. So first of all, let's enable the headers control in order to better understand the situation with the folders and with the files. And if we open the root, as you can see, the whole file structure is available. So now the only thing left for us to do is to decide how to save the data and what particular data we need to save here. Let's go back to the main window and let's try to open the file structure here. So actually from this point you can already start copying the data, you can start saving the needed objects. If you know that you just need to save one folder, which is for example not very big, you can do it straight from here. Just choose the needed folder, right click, save, and you are ready to go. But if the situation is different and if you need to save the whole file structure, for example, let's see what can be done here and how you can improve the speeds in such situations. First, I want to compare the results of space units option that we have and our virtual drive option. So when we click on the root and go to create a map of marked folders and files, let's wait a little. And this is the map that we have here in this case. So what's next? Now we are facing the situation that we have around 10 gigabytes of data. If we would start copying immediately with current settings, our speed can be max at about 10 megabytes per second. So yeah, rather good for SMR drives, but we can try to improve it even more. And let me show you how actually we can try to do it. So first, we need to generate a new translator module based on our virtual drive. Let's save it in our backup folder with the name something like this, 190 rebuild. And obviously it will be based on our original module 190 from our backup folder. Let's press OK and let's wait for it to happen. So file has been saved, module file has been saved, and now we can close our current task, go back to our utility, and let's just make sure that our rebuild 190 module is actually in a good condition. To do it, let's go for T2 reading and analyze option. Let's select it from the files. Make sure to put the correct name right here, not to analyze your old translator. And let's give it a moment for our software to analyze it. Actually, in this case, as you can see, we don't have that much data. But at the same time, our module looks correct. So don't pay too much attention for this zero data area. And what we need to do right now is to rewrite our original module with our new rebuild one. Let's press OK. Let's select our folder with our backup and let's rewrite our new module to our hard disk drive. after we successfully did it, we need to lock user area writing to make sure that our translator will not be changed during the copying procedure, because on SMR drives, unfortunately, this can happen. Then we need to repower our drive to apply all the settings, all the changes that we did. And now we need to create a new task. What was it? Deleted plus encrypted. Press next, and now we need to choose SATA 1 because our drive is working with our new translator, which is based already on the needed settings that we applied in previous task. So this will give us the possibility to work not through the PBA mode, not reading it physically, but to read it with normal UDMA mode and reach the maximum supported speed, the maximum speed that your drive can give you at the moment. So after pressing next, all the other settings for the task should be the same. With no changes at all. The only thing left that we need to do is to select turn off on drive's power in error handling menu and in loss of readiness. So in this case, drive will just restart it. It will be faster for it, and with no problems should proceed reading the data later. So if we open the Explorer now, we should be able to see our file structure that we rebuilt in the previous task. Again, let's use headers control, and that's it. From now on, you can save the data, you can create a map, and you can proceed doing whatever you want with the data that you've built. And now you can be sure that you are working in UDMA mode at the full possible speed and save the needed data. I mean, it's just better if in cases that you have just more data to save. In this case, maybe this changes is not so much important, but in your real life cases, they could be. That's why we decided to show you this new approach that you can do. That's it for the hard disk drive part that I wanted to demonstrate you today. Thank you very much for your attention, and I just want to remind you that that actually, if you want to learn more information after the Tech Week in Malaga, we will conduct training courses in Prague in October and in Dubai in November. On these training courses, you can learn more information about how to work with Western Digital SMR drives, how to work with Seagate drives, with flash drives. Pretty much all the courses that we have will be conducted during this period of time. So I will be waiting for you there and hope to see you soon. See ya!
Hello guys, and welcome to second part of our video about the new version of PC-3000 7.5. Here I am going to tell about the new solid-state drives that AceLab developers successfully add into PC-3000 SSD utility. And of course, I think that it will be pretty interesting because in this version AceLab developers will finally add the native USB SSD drives based on silicon motion controller. I'm not talking about the drives which contains SSD with some USB bridge on the PCB, but I'm talking about the native drives, like this small guy, which is actually just one main controller and a few memory chips on board. And actually this drive is pretty unique because there is no any USB bridges, and this is the native Silicon Motion SM2320G controller. And actually this is the new one. We are going to show you how we can work with portable and how we can recover data from this drive. Also, we're going to talk about the new implementation of Maxiotek controller, which is actually was previously added into PC-3000 SSD software, but unfortunately the functionality of utility was pretty limited, and just a few models of SSD drive were fully supported, like ADATA SU635 and ADATA SU650. Right now, our developers were able to reconstruct the utility to add new translator regeneration algorithm, which include a lot of interesting things. And now we can work with the widest range of different solid-state drives, which are based on Maxio 0902 controller. And actually, it will be pretty interesting to show how we exactly can work with these models. And of course, if we talk about the modern NVMe drives for our portable system, we successfully add the new controller, which was previously the high-end model Silicon Motion SM2263EN. And actually, you know that 2263XT is one of the most popular NVMe controller nowadays, because it's a RAM-less controller, which is using just a NAND buffer for storing some important information like translator tables and so on. But the high-end modification with the extended RAM was not available before, but right now we successfully added, and as well as SM2262EN, the new 63EN modification is also supported. So let's get started. And the first drive that I would like to show you is going to be, as I mentioned before, the native Kingston drive. And actually this drive is really interesting because it contains just a small box. It has the size just a little bit bigger than a common USB flash stick like UFD drive, and it has a native USB Type-C interface. And actually this small guy is pretty fast. It can reach the speed around 1 GB per second for writing and reading, and usually such drive could be used in Mac computers or modern PCs which contains USB 3.2 or USB 4 support, and this drive is pretty fast. And we suppose that more and more manufacturers in the nearest future will use this SSD drive, this controller in their SSD drives, and we will meet them a lot, really a lot, because this controller is pretty new. It was just appear on the market, but I'm sure that a lot of manufacturers very soon will start to use it. First of all, of course, we need to correctly remove this SSD drive from the package. After that, we need to carefully connect it to USB port on PC-3000 portable system. And here is how we are going to do that. So I am just connecting the drive and plug it to USB port of PC-3000 portable, because this is the only way to communicate with this drive. As I mentioned before, this drive contains a native USB controller without any bridges, and we are able to send technological commands using the USB interface. It's very important. And of course, when we launching this drive, we will see how this drive will be detected in our Silicon Motion USB utility. And first of all, of course, let's start the window and choose the USB port of our PC-3000 portable device. And let's move forward. So what we can see here, actually, as you remember, I choose the USB protocol, the USB interface, and here we got some utilities for Western Digital drives, for native Toshiba and native Samsung drives, which allow us to activate the technological command and send some commands to this hard disk drive. But again, we are working with USB, with the native USB SSD, that's why we need to jump into the utilities for SSD. And here we got, right now it's the only one controller on the market, which contains the native USB interface and some kind of a PCI Express protocol. So we need to launch the power supply. After that, we can check the drive, how it will be detectable in universal utility, for example. We can just simply start the universal utility for USB device. And actually, this drive contains the most typical problem for such drives when it goes into safe mode by default. So probably the native translator is damaged, or probably there is some other issues regarding the internal firmware. And in this case, of course, we need to use a special utility which was specially made for this controller. And let me launch this utility to find out what's wrong with this drive, because again, before it would be possible to recover it, it's very important to understand what's going wrong with this SSD. Actually, I saw such drives in the form factor of a classic UFD drive with the native USB Type-A interface, not even Type-C, but Type-A. So I think that in the future there would be more and more such drives. And of course, we can see that this drive is based on Micron TLC B27B memory chips with 96 layers. And of course, we have to upload the loader. And for this controller, we got some loaders, which we can upload to the internal RAM. And after loader uploading, we can get some extended information about this SSD. As usually for SATA SSD utility, for NVMe PCI Express utility, the initialization of this controller is very similar. I'm sure that if you already get some experience with NVMe or SATA SSD recovery, you can see that initialization steps are almost the same. So we got here information that this drive contains 73 gigabyte capacity per a single chip, and we got here 8 memory chips or 8 chip enables. So let's make sure that this memory chip works pretty good and there is no any problem regarding the internal structure, internal hardware structure of these memory chips. And we can see that all chips are reading fine, but I recommend you also try to use the technological mode and read some data by different channels on this SSD. For example, we can try to launch the utility like I'm going to choose the view and edit SSD resources. And after that, we can follow by number of channels, number of memory chips, and make sure that it's really contains some data. Just read different channels and read different memory chips. So the data must be read very completely without any dead pattern or something else. And we can see that actually, yes, it's reading well and all channels, all chip enable reads fine. It means that this SSD not so bad. We still can try to repair the translator, but in case if a single channel is not working or some chips are not visible, we recommend you to use the hot air gun station and try to warm the controller and the NAND memory chips. It's very important because if you will not do that, there is no a good contact between the PCB and the main chips, so utility will not see the good condition of the NAND memory chips, and it will be not possible to read some service blocks on this SSD. Anyway, so what we need to do right now? As usual, we should go to the source information, translator, create the translator. And once we launch this reading algorithm, we have to create a new profile for this controller. Actually, you can see that from the firmware, our software was able to read a complete passport details. This is a portable SSD based on Silicon Motion controller with the firmware and serial number. So let's take a resources backup and create a profile folder for this SSD. And once it will be ready, it will be possible to proceed with the data access. As I usually tell to our customers, the speed of translator creation depends on the capacity and the status of the SSD. How many bed sectors does it have, or probably how many time this SSD was reading before, and so on. And we can see that actually translator building doesn't take much time here, and we already got the translator. And of course, we recommend you to save it, but as far as I remember, our developers already add the feature which automatically save build translator into the profile, but it depends on the utility. So we always recommend you to build the translator and save it as a single file, because in case if something wrong will happen with this drive and it will be not possible to initialize it one more time, you always can use a translator copy to restore it, upload into RAM, and get full access to user data again, even if the drive become in a worse condition. Okay, so translator is ready. Let's make a new task in data extractor, and we need to create some test task. And I'm going to do that. So let's make it like Kingston. Choose our source device. Actually, this drive is pretty small, but has 512 gigabyte capacity, pretty large capacity, by the way. And we're going to create a task copy into the task folder. And let's open the file explorer. And of course, here we can see the final result of our folder structure. So we can open the partition, see the root structure, and probably here we can find some readable data and readable information. And as you can see, everything looks pretty good. We can read some data, we can check the map of this data, we can scan it to make sure that there is nothing bad regarding the bad sectors, and picture should be pretty good, it should be in a good shape. We can see it right here, so pictures opening fine without any trouble, and data has been recovered. So actually you can see that the new utility for native Silicon Motion USB drives, Silicon Motion USB controllers, use the same approach as all other utilities for Silicon Motion, like SATA Silicon Motion or PCI Express Silicon Motion controllers. We simply switch the drive in safe mode if it required, if drive is not detectable, or if it's already in safe mode, it's necessary to launch the chip test ID to make sure that all channels are fine. After that, we recommend to read some random areas, the dumps, by the direct reading of dumps. And after that, simply rebuild the translator and make a new task in data extractor to see the user data which was stored at this drive. So our next case that we are going to talk about will be a Maxiotek controller. Actually, as I already mentioned, this controller was previously added for ADATA SU635 and 630 modification, but today we're going to speak about the Pacer solid-state drive model, which is pretty interesting. And actually, I will also show you some some additional details regarding the Maxiotek based drives, which are not listed, but you still can try to work with them. Actually, such unsupported Maxio based drives require some additional parameters for the NAND memory chip arrangement, but in general, we can work even if the drive is not fully supported using the universal utility. Okay, and right now we got the Apacer drive. You can see that this drive is based on Maxio MAS0902 controller, and this controller support has been extended since their last update. And right now we're going to launch the utility for this controller, and of course we are going to connect this SSD to our portable system. Actually, this drive is fully supported by all our PC-3000 tools like Udemy, Express, as well as Portable. So we got here the list of utilities we need to follow by vendor name of solid state drive, and of course let's make a power on. So let's take a look how our drive will be detected. And actually we can see that this SSD contains some firmware corruption because it stays in busy. After some time it goes in ready, but as soon as I will launch the universal utility to read the passport ID, I can see the drive goes back into busy. So unfortunately I cannot initialize this drive correctly because I've still got some problem with this SSD. And actually this is a problem. So we have to find the way how we can work with it. And as you remember, we got the special sorting of controllers by a controller name. And here we got our Maxio controllers, and actually we support 2 of them, but right now the best research controller is the first one, 0902A modification. Let's start it. So here we can see that we need to choose the correct utility, and again this drive is not completely supported, but we have a profile for this SSD, and we need to launch this drive into safe mode. So you can see that here in the left part of the screen we got some profiles with the NAND memory chip configurations. We got here a Pacer, this one which I've got here with 4 physical memory chips, and we also got another one, and we got some other drives which are also partially supported, and if you will get one of these SSDs, it will be possible to proceed with them and probably reach the data. Unfortunately, at this moment, just 3 drives are fully supported. I mean, a data modification, a Pacer modification, and Smart Buy modification. All other modifications like Mark Vision, like Numo, like HP, Hikvision and GoodRAM should be a little bit adopted. So in case if you will get one of these controllers, one of these drives, please contact technical support and our engineers will guide you. Because again, to work with this SSD correctly, we have to set all parameters about the number of channels, number of memory chips, type of the memory chip package, type of the ECC, different timings, and some other things. So if you are not sure which buttons you need to press, just ask our technical support department, ASLab technical support, and we will guide you. So let's select our profile for a Pacer. From here, actually, we can get the same window if we will go from the Pacer Maxio utility. It will be absolutely the same. And again, we need to select our profile. And of course, we need to move forward after we select the correct profile for this Maxio. Fortunately, we don't have here COM port terminal, but it's not a problem. And we have to short the hardware key. This picture is from the AData utility, but actually it's not a problem to find the correct safe mode pins for any Maxio based drive. So again, if you are not sure, just ask our technical support department, we will guide you. In the nearest future, our developers will add correct pictures into utility to make the things be more easier for our customers. So shorting points will be more obvious. And we are going to upload the loader right now. So let's take a look. We short the drive in safe. We can see that the drive now is under January loader. You can see that actually this procedure was made automatically, just need to wait a bit. And in the passport ID we got ASLab service firmware. And after that we were able to read a lot of logical chips here, logical parts. And we can see that there are 16 chip enabled totally, but actually these chip IDs are grouped into 4 physical memory chips. And right now we are ready to build the translator. We're doing it as always, so let's start the translator building. Let's make a new profile for this SSD. And after that, we got here algorithm for translator building. And for this Maxio MAS0902, we need to use the first algorithm, which is we need to select it and press search. Actually, the searching procedure will take some time and we have to wait. And this process may take probably a half an hour or probably even an hour. So we have to be patient and wait until the process will be over. So let's wait till the end of the process.
A few moments later.
It takes almost 1.5 hours, 90 minutes to build the translator here, because the capacity of this Apacer drive is around 512 gigabyte, and as the result we have to scan the whole area of the SSD to find the pieces of translator that we need to form the translator table. And the final result that we got here is a table with a lot of different chains. You can see there are a lot of them, which form the dynamic translator, which was created just right now. And of course, here we got a few versions of translator. We can choose any of them, but the most recent version always is in the top of the list. So you can see that right now the target translator is selected. We just need to press the build button. And when the translator will be over, we can start the data extractor, make a new task, let's call it Maxio, and choose our Apacer SSD. So what we will get here in the data extractor. Of course, we should be patient. And again, depending on the drive capacity, probably we need to wait like I wait almost 90 minutes. So let's open the folder structure to see the folder tree, and if everything was fine, we should see here different partitions, and one of them should be partition with data. Let's take a look, and we can see here some partitions with system reserved information, with some necessary window information. But here is the interesting thing. You can see that we got the data, but before the solid state drive goes to be corrupted, it seems that Windows already tried to fix this partition, and as the result, it started the check disk, and probably some folders become logically damaged. That's why we can see found 02, 04, 05, 6, and so on. But anyway, result should be pretty good. We can see that actually user data is available here. We can see the root structure right there. We can try to open some files. Actually, this is a real drive. That's why we are going to see the real content on this SSD. So data is available, and we can start to save it. And again, the most complex thing when we are talking about the Maxiotek is a problem regarding the correct NAND memory chip configuration in utility. So if you will get the Maxiotek 0902 controller, any SSD drive based on this controller, please contact ASLab technical support. We will try to configure it correctly, because you can see that even in current utility we have a lot of profiles for different models of SSD based on this CPU. But if the SSD is not supported, if it's something new which we never met before, first of all we need to set the configuration of the memory chip. And our developers are planning to improve the functionality of utility in the future and make this process more automatic, because right now it's fully manual and we have to do it by our hands. I think that's all about this drive, so let's take a look on another SSD drive, another controller that developer add in this software release. And of course, the final drive for today is going to be a Kingston drive based on Silicon Motion SM2263EN. As I mentioned before, it was a pretty good, pretty fast controller, which was available for a wide number of different storage media. And right now, our developers add this controller into support list. And utility for this controller is pretty universal, because depending on the type of the NAND memory chip, you can work almost with all existing modification of this controller, which is working in a pair with various type of NAND memory chips. And of course, first of all, we have to check this drive. Then we need to connect this drive to our adapter and plug it to PC-3000 portable. And then we need to launch power supply to see what's going wrong with this SSD. So I press the power supply on port 1 and I can see here that drive got the physical status. So let's take a look in universal utility how this drive will be detectable, which ID it will show to us. And the same as for any other Silicon Motion 2263 drives, it goes into safe mode by default, because again the problem here is connected with the damaged firmware, damaged translator. So drive stopped working correctly and show us just a limited capacity and controller passport ID, but not SSD passport ID. So what we need to do in this case, and again, we can follow by utility to select the correct family, or we can jump into the utility for controller, select Silicon Motion and choose 2263EN, which is actually our drive. And let's try to initialize this SSD. As I mentioned before, for this drive we got a wide number of loaders. It means that we can work with different type of memory chips, which could be installed on this SSD. Of course, the number of loaders isn't so high as for Silicon Motion 2259XT or 58XT, but all main memory chips, which usually goes in a pair with this controller, are presented on the screen. First of all, you can see that our memory chip are Intel based and they got 64 layers with B16A marking and TLC architecture. So you can see that actually all loaders, they have the name, special name for the memory chip type, and we got here B16 or B17. Also we got Intel Micron B27, Unix, SanDisk and Toshiba. So it's very easy to find which loader you need to upload. And of course our utility by default will highlight the target loader, so we can easily choose it. Let's press yes, load the loader, and see how the drive will be detected after that, because we will get some extended initialization of this SSD. So need to be sure that there is no any shorting points. Press next. We should wait a bit. And here we can see that the loader has been successfully uploaded. We can read information about the RAM chip, about the access to user data. There is no logical access, but there is a physical access which will allow us to work with the drive firmware and service area. And also we got here some extended information about the number of memory chips in this drive. And again, as always, we strongly recommend you to launch the chip ID test to make sure that all chip IDs, all chip enables are fine and there is no any problem regarding the PCB bending or memory chip off due to the high temperature and so on. So the contact between the PCB and the main chips must be very tight and very good. So let's start the translator building. We're going to create a new profile for this SSD to save all necessary information from the service blocks. So we can see that again drive find all necessary information about this SSD name from the drive firmware. And now we are going to make the translator. So the process of translator creation may take some time. So let's wait a bit while it will be finished. All right, so translator building was completed. And again, we recommend you to save the translator into a file. In case of some problem will happen with your SSD, it will be possible to load the previously saved translator file into the drive RAM. And after that, of course, we have to jump into data extractor, make the new task based on the utility and see which data we got here. And again, we launching the new task, we choosing the source device, making the copy, and when the task become open, we can extend the file explorer to see the content on this drive. And here we can see two partitions with data, and one of them is the main partition for this SSD, and data actually is available now. And of course, please know that right now we support not just a Kingston drive based on Silicon Motion SM2263EN controller. We can try to work with any other solid-state drive which is using the same CPU. And again, please, in case of any questions, ask our technical support department, so our engineers will guide you. Okay, and I think that that's all for today. We saw a lot of interesting things regarding the hard disk drive. George showed it to you. We saw a few solid-state drives which were recently added into PC-3000 update. And now you are able to work with all of these SSD drives by yourself. And of course, please don't forget to ask our ASLab technical support in case if you will get any troubles regarding the data recovery from the new solid-state drives. And our engineers are always ready to help you. And of course, please don't forget that in the end of October, we got a pretty great event, ASLab Tech Week. And during this event, we are going to show a lot of interesting things regarding the upcoming updates. We are going to talk about the new trends of data recovery. We are going to show you new ways of data recovery. And of course, we will prepare something special. So don't forget to subscribe to our newsline. Please don't forget to register on our Tech Week conference, and we will wait for you there. Thank you very much, and please don't forget to ask ASLab technical support in case of any questions you will get. See you guys.